Good afternoon, sir. My name is DORENA LUCERNAS, BSED-ENGLISH, and now I am going to present my task, namely materialism and control. First, I am going to present materialism. Materialism is a form of philosophical monism that holds that matter is the fundamental substance in nature, and that all things, including mental states and a consciousness, are a result of material interactions. According to philosophical materialism, mind and consciousness are byproduct or a phenomena of material processes, such as the biochemistry, the human brain, and the nervous system, without which they cannot exist. Materialism is closely related to physicalism, the view that all that exists is ultimately physical. Philosophical physicalism has evolved from materialism with the theories of the physical science to incorporate more sophisticated notion of physicality than mere ordinary matter, for example, space-time, physical energies and forces, and dark matter. This concept directly contrasts with idealism, where mind and consciousness are first-order realities to which matter is subject and material interaction are secondary. Thus, the term physicalism is preferred over materialism by some, while others use the term as if they were synonymous. Philosophies contradictory to materialism or physicalism include idealism, pluralism, dualism, panpsychism, and other forms of monism. Philosophers distinguish two forms of central state materialism, namely the translation form and the disappearance form. The translation form is the view that mentalistic discourse can be translated into discourse that is neutral between physicalism and dualism, so that the truth of a person's anthroperspective report is compatible with the object of this report being physical processes. The disappearance form is the view that such a translation cannot be done and that this fact, however, does not refute physicalism, but shows only that ordinary introspective reports are contaminated by false theories. An example of materialism is explaining love in terms of material things. An example of materialism is valuing a new car over friendships. The theory or attitude that physical well-being and worldly possession constitute the greatest good and highest value in life. For Marx and Engels, materialism meant that the material world, perceptible to the senses, has objective reality independent of mind or spirit. They did not deny the reality of mental or spiritual processes, but affirmed that ideas could arise, therefore, only as products and reflection of material's condition. In 1748, Doctor and philosopher La-Mettrie exposes a materialistic definition of the human soul and L-Ho machine. Materialism belonged to the class of monist ontology, and it thus different from ontological theories. Based on dualism, pluralism, or singular explanation of the phenomenal reality, materialism would be being in contrast to idealism. It can also contrast with phenomenalism, vitalism, and dual-aspect monism. Its materiality can, in some way, be linked to the concept of determinism, as exposed by enlightened thinkers. All philosophers are said to fall one of two categories defined in contrast to each other, idealism and pluralism. The basic proposition of these two categories pertain to nature of reality. The primary distinction between them is the way they answer two fundamental questions, which are what does reality consist of and how does originated. To idealists, spirit or mind and the object of mind, or spirit and ideas, are secondary, the product of matter, acting upon matter. The word materialism has been used in modern times to refer to a family of metaphysical theories. The word materialism has been used in modern times to refer to a family of metaphysical theories. He defined by saying that a theory tends to be called materialist if it is felt sufficiently to resemble of paradigmatic theory that will here to be called mechanical materialism. This article covers the various types of materialism and the way by which they are distinguished, and trace the history of materialism from Greek and Roman to modern form of materialism. The materialist tradition in Western philosophy reality begins with Lysippus and Democritus, Greek philosophers who were born in 5th century BCE. According to Democritus, the world consists of nothing but atoms, invisible chunks of matter, an empty space, which he seems to have thought of as an entity in its own right. Also, Democritus thought that the soul consists of smooth round atoms and that perception consists of motions caused in the soul atom by the atoms in the perceived thing. Materialism is generally considered a negative value trait or behavior, being associated with greed, shallowness, and lack of spiritual values. Collins' English Dictionary defines materialism as interest in and desire for money, possession, etc. rather than spiritual or ethical values. Materialism 2015. Studied within various disciplines, materialism is defined from different perspectives as a way of life, a value orientation, a cultural system, a personality trait, a second-order value, an inspiration. Benda and Othman, 2011. There are two main approaches to materialism in the contemporary empirical research. One that views materialism as a personality trait and the other that assumes that materialism should be treated as a part of personal value system. 1985 relates materialism to the personality traits of one possessiveness, the inclination and tendency to retain control or ownership of one's professions, non-generosity and unwillingness to give professions to share profession with others. And envy, displeasure, and ill will at the superiority of another person and happiness, success, reputation, or the possession of anything desirable. Another widely accepted approach to materialism suggests that materialism can be viewed as a value that consumers give to possession and should be studied within the context of the larger value system that individuals hold. And Dawson 1990, Kasser and Ryan 1996, Burroughs and Redflesh 2002, Butridgen and Dawson 1992 define material achieving value that emphasize importance of possession and material goods and person life toward achieving life goals or desired states. implementing the basic concept of materialism as multifaceted construct which include the belief that possessions lead to happiness, that success can be judged by things people own, and that possession can central in person's life. Materialism and well-being. Materialism has drawn attention of scholars in the field of positive psychology because of its possible negative effect of individuals' well-being. In many studies conducted in different countries, materialism was found to be associated with dissatisfaction with life and lower subjective well-being. When examining the relationship between materialism and well-being, it should be kept in mind that different economic and cultural circumstances can influence the meaning of materialism and values toward possessions and consumptions within a society. The difference of materialism and idealism. The simple difference between the two is idealism forcefully says that idealism is all in all, and naturally it determines everything. The opposite views has been propagated by materialism. Materialism is the essence as optimistic, life-asserting, and radiant philosophy. The disadvantage of materialism. The disadvantage of materialistic tendencies include debt, sadness, and fake happiness. Most people feel that they need approval from others, and to get that approval, people buy things that may be expensive so that they can be noticed by others.
Good day, sir. I'm LOPENA from BSED-2, and for this video, I'm going to report about technology. Technology is the development over the time of systematic techniques for making and doing things. The term techniques is a combination of the Greek techne, art, craft, with logos, word, speech, meant in Greece, a discourse on the arts. It was used to mean a discussion of the applied arts only. By the early 20th century, technology, the term, embraced a growing range of means, process, and ideas in addition to tools and machines. By mid-century, technology was defined by such process as the means or activity by which man seeks to change or manipulate an environment. There are some images of culture in the 20th century and present. This is an example of 20th century television or TV. Television is the electronic delivery of moving images and sound from a source to receiver. Television has considerable influence on society. In the 20th century, as possible medium for education. Television is now web's traditional broadcast. Television helps people to become more aware of the events or any disasters in our country. The second picture is all about gadgets. For example, gadgets is laptop. Gadgets help us to make it easier to connect with our loved ones or to communicate with other person, even if they are far away. Gadgets in our present culture is most important things to all people, especially to all students or teachers, because Because of our current situation nowadays, gadgets help us a lot because we can use them to commit and study. The people in our present day than ever before in the past society could close themselves and retain their social and cultural heritage. People in the past is difficult to communicate with other people. But in our present culture today, people are competing and the use of technology in all aspects of their private and public life. And this picture is about telephone in the past and cell phone for the present. Telephone is also known as a cell phone. It is communication tool. It was an electric tool transmitting analog speech along wires. Now, it is an electronic tool sending digital signals on wires or radio transmission. Using a telephone with two people who are in different places can talk to each other. Early telephones need to be connected with wires which are called fixed of landline. This picture is about letter writing in the 20th century in the past. Letter writing in the past century is a way to communication because in the past always were no gadgets that could make it easier to communicate with other people. Unlike now, we always communicate more easily because of internet access or any kind of gadgets that we use. There is no doubt that things have differed greatly between past and present in many aspects of life, and this difference has caused the development of human civilization and the changing forms and patterns in life. While other people view this difference as a positive, some argue that it is necessary to return to the values of society and its customs that are lacking in contemporary life. Life in ancient times is lacked the tools that man knew in modern times. So people's lives were very difficult in many ways. Like example, in the past, if they want to travel, people traveled from country to country using camels. And at home, people use simple, primitive tools to sit far to the food. Technology impacts global culture is through media technology. People are able to get information almost immediately because of things like cell phone and internet. So, technology is one of the biggest positives of the technological advancement. When it comes to communicate, technology has had powerful influence to communicate even if you are in the far away. Today's generation, we have many more efficient options to communicate. If we want them to send the message or if we want them to send a message, we can immediately send them a message through on social media, video chat, email, or put a call through. That's all. Thank you.
is my report? My report is all about freedom. So, freedoms means it is the power or right to act, speak, or think as once without hindrance or restraint. And the absence of the despite government, the right to freedom of associates is recognized of a human rights. A public freedom and a civil liberty, then freedom can be limited by laws that product possible safety. So, freedoms means is the power or right to act or right to speak or to think. So, freedoms means generally is having the ability to act or change without constraint. So, freedoms means the ability to act or change. So, freedoms, example for freedoms is freedom to speech, freedom to communicate each other. So, a person has a freedom to do things that will not in theory or in practice. So, be prevented by other persons. So, a person has a freedom. They do things that good side and bad side. So, in philosophy and religion, it is associated with having free will and being with undue or unjust. So, according to philosophy, that they explain about freedom. So, freedoms it means that free as well. So, the right of freedom of expression is recognized as the human rights under Article 19 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR. So, the right of freedoms are freedoms to express their feelings. So, under Article 19 of the Human Rights or Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognized in International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or ICCPR. Article 19 of the UDHR states that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference, and everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. So, under Article 19, that states everyone shall have the right to hold. So, freedom means shall have the right to hold the opinion. So, every person have the right to hold the opinions. So, and everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. So, every person have a freedom to express their feelings, what they have do, or this right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds. So, every person have a freedom to receive the information or tackle the latest information in this society. So, or have a freedom to share their knowledge or to share their information about what happening in this society. So, the version of Article 19 in the ICCPR later amends this by stating that the exercise of these rights carries special duties and responsibilities and may therefore be subject to certain restriction. So, under Article 19, that every person freedom must be have responsibilities and duties. So, every person that live in this society have the duties and responsibilities. So, therefore, may be subject to certain restriction. Good morning, everyone. So, my report for today is all about freedom. So, freedom, which means generally is having the ability to act or change without constraint. So, freedoms, which means it is the right or act of a person. So, freedom, when we call it freedom, it's for free for speech, free for communicate each other. So, a person has the freedom to do things that will not, in theory or in practice, be prevented by other forces. So, when we talk freedom, it's to be on how you to prevented by the other. So, according to the right of freedom of expression is recognized as a human right under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, Article 19 states that everyone shall have the right to hold opinions without interference, and everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. So, according to Article 19, it states that every person have a freedom to speech, to express their feelings, and to speak. So, this right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds. So, freedoms not also not also the when you are free to speak, but freedom also means you are freedoms which means you can free to receive information for the other people. So the version of Article 19 in the ICCPR later amends this by stating that the exercise of these rights carries special duties and responsibilities and may therefore be subject to certain restrictions. So, under Article 19, it states that every person have responsibilities and duties. So, freedom not also when you are free to speech, but freedom also have a responsibilities and duties. So, Socrates expressed his freedom. According to Socrates, his freedom consists in his freedom from what presses him because he has mastered himself. So, according to Socrates, his freedom was so his freedom was mastered by himself. So, as opposed to Plato, Socrates, Xenophon, Socrates is not poor because he has much, but because he needs a little. We also find Xenophon attributing to Socrates a proof of the existence of God. Freedom is the possibility of choosing the option of unfreedom. So, freedom is the possibility of choosing the option of unfreedom. So, freedom is the opposite of unfreedom. Free chooses, not free, obeys desires. Freedom is the state of mind. It is a philosophical concept reflecting an inalienable human rights to realize one's human will. So, freedom is the state of mind. So, freedom, it means that not also the free to speech, but freedom, you follow through your mind So, it is a philosophical concept reflecting an inalienable human rights to realize one's human.
Heroes past are often associated with battle and conflict. Recent heroes of war, the men who displayed bravery and beyond the courage. So in the past history, we've noticed that all the heroes there is selflessly fighting to save lives. They are brave enough to give their best just to save the lives of people. And number two is heroes present. Heroes in the traditional sense may be uncommon today, but the term heroes is still commonly used. So it's not what we really normally do in everyday, but it is what we do beyond our we do above or beyond our normally duties in times of struggle or pressure. And number three is reluctant heroes. Is a earnest, ordinary man with several faults or a troubled past, and he is called reluctantly into the story or into a heroic acts. And it means that that kind of heroes has a troubled past. And number four is heroes of the hero or during an organized natural disaster. So usually today when we have natural disasters, and the example of this is our public servants or the natural disasters rescuers. Number 6 is national hero. So we all know that national heroes are fighting for the growth and development of the society. They contribute good history for themselves, and once they were called heroes, they will be called heroes forever. There are types of heroes. Number one is classical heroes. The definition of classical heroes is otherwise normal people, except they have a great talent. So example of classical heroes is the movie Harry Potter. And number two is everyman heroes. Definition of everyman heroes has come to mean an ordinary individual that the audience or a reader easily identifies with, but who has no outstanding abilities or attributes. Everyman hero is one who is placed in extraordinary circumstances, acts with heroic qualities. And number three is superhero. Superhero, example of superhero is Superman, the fiction superhero. He is a benevolent character with superhuman powers. And number four is tragic hero. Tragic hero is a person of a noble birth with heroic or potentially heroic qualities. Example of tragic hero in the movies is Pita in the movie Hunger Games. And the epic hero. The definition of epic hero is the main character in the story. The main character, the natural disasters are still worse. Number 6 is national hero. So we all know that national heroes are fighting for the growth and development of the society. They contribute good history for themselves, and once they were called heroes, they will be called heroes forever. There are types of heroes. Number 1 is classical heroes. The definition of classical heroes is otherwise normal people, except they have a great talent. So example of classical heroes is the movie Harry Potter. And number 2 is everyman heroes. Definition of everyman heroes has come to mean an ordinary individual that the audience or a reader easily identifies with, but who has no outstanding abilities or attributes. Everyman hero is one who is placed in extraordinary circumstances, acts with heroic qualities. And number 3 is superhero. Superhero, example of superhero is Superman, the fiction superhero. He is a benevolent character with superhuman powers. And number 4 is tragic hero. Tragic hero is a person of a noble birth with heroic or potentially heroic qualities. Example of tragic hero in the movies is Pita in the movie Hunger Games. And the epic hero. The definition of epic hero is the main character in the story, the main character in the movie. And the last one is anti-hero. Anti-hero is a central character in the story or movie who lacks conventional hero attributes. So as I mentioned it before, that anti-hero or the enemy of the movie or the story. And that's all. Thank you.
Good evening, and now I will present my test, which is control. Control is a function of management which helps to check error in order to take corrective actions. This is done to minimize deviation from standard and ensure that the stated goals of the organization are achieved in designed manner. According to modern concept, control foreseeing action were only used when error is detected. Control in management including setting standard, meaning actual performance, and taking corrective action in decision making. According to Henry Ford, 1916, control of an undertaking consists of seeing that everything is being carried out in accordance which has been adopted, the order which has been given, and the principle which has been laid down. Its object is to point out mistakes in order that they may be rectified and prevented from recurring. And according to Stafford Bear, management is the profession of control. Control also defined that function of the system that just operation is needed to achieve the plan on to maintain variation form system, objective within allowable limit. The control subsystem function is close harmony with operating system. The degree to which they interact depend on the nature of the operating system and its object. The controlling is a processes which measure the direct and actual performance against the planned goals of the organization. Thus, goals and objectives are often referred to a system between management. Control is a power to direct or an acceptable comparison, model in experiment or undevised use for regulation. Control is defined as a command, restrain, or manage. According to Brecht, control is checking current performance against predetermined standard contained in the plans, with a view ensure adequate progress and satisfactory performance. And according to Harold Kuntz, controlling is the measuring and correction of performance in order to make sure that enterprise objective and plans devised to attain them are accomplished. Robert G. McClure presented more comprehensive definition of managerial control. Management control can be defined as systematic torture by business management to compare performance to predetermined standards, plans, or objectives in order to determine whether performance is in line with this standard and presumable with other corporate resources are being used and the most effective and efficient way possible in achieving corporate objective. Control also defined as function of the system that adjusts operation as needed to achieve the plans or to maintain variation from system objectives within allowable limits. The control subsystem function in close harmony with the operating system. The degree to which they interact depends on the nature of the operating system and its objectives. Stability concern of the operating system and its objective stability. Concern systems ability to maintain a pattern of output without wide fluctuation. Rapidity of response pertains to the speed with which a system can correct variation and return to expected output. There are four basic elements of control system. First is characteristic or condition. Second is the sensor. Third is the comparator. And fourth is the activator. First, we will discuss about the first elements of control system, which is the characteristic or conditions. The first element is the characteristic or condition of the operating system to be measured. Specific characteristics are selected because of the correlation exists between them and the system's performance. A characteristic can be output of the system during any stage of processing. For example, heat energy produced by furnace, or it may be a condition that the system's performance, for example, the temperature in the room which has changed because of the heat generated by furnace. An elementary school system, the hour a teacher work or the gain knowledge demonstrated by the student on a national examination are example of characteristics that may be selected for measured or control. Second element of control is the sensor. The sensor is a means of measuring the characteristic. For example, an example in a home heating system, this device would be the thermostat, and in the quality control system, this measurement might be performed by a visual inspection of the product. 20th century began on January 1, 1901 and ended on December 31, 2000. The term is often used erroneously to refer to the 1900s. The century between January 1, 1900 and December 31, 1999. It was the 10th and final century of the second millennium. Unlike most century years, the year 2000 was a leap year, and the second century leap year and the Gregorian calendar after 1600. This century had the first global-scale total wars between world power across continent and ocean in the World War I and World War II. Nationalism became a major political issue in the world in the 20th century, acknowledged in international law along with the right of nations to self-determination, official decolonization, and the mid-century and related regional conflicts. The century saw a major shift in the way that many people live with changes in politics, ideology, economic, society, culture, science, technology, and medicine. The 20th century may have seen more technological and scientific progress than all the other centuries combined since the dawn of civilization. Terms like nationalism, globalism, environmentalism, ideology, world war, genocide, and nuclear war entered common usage. Scientific discoveries such as the theory of relativity and the quantum physics profoundly changed the foundation models of physical science, forcing scientists to realize that the universe was more complex than previously believed and dashing the hopes or fears. At the end of the 19th century, that the last few details of scientific knowledge were about to fill in. It was a century that started with horses, simple automobiles, and fighters but ended with high-speed rail, cruises, ships, and fighters but ended with high-speed rail, cruises, ships, but commercial air travel and the space shuttle, horses and other pack animals, every society's basic form of personal transportation for thousands of years, were replaced by automobiles and buses within a few decades. These developments were made possible by the explosion of fossil fuel resources, which offered energy in an easily portable form, but also caused concern about pollution and long-term impact on the environment. Humans explored space for the first time, taking their first footstep on the moon. Mass media, telecommunication, and information technology, especially computers, paperback books, public education, and the internet, made the world's knowledge more widely available. Advancement in medical technology also improved the health of many people, and global expectancy increased from 35 years old to 65 years old. Rapid technological advancement, however, also allowed welfare reach unprecedented level of destruction. World War II alone killed over 60 million people, while nuclear weapons gave humankind means to annihilate itself in short time. However, this TV war resulted in the destruction of the imperial system for the first time in human history. Empires and their wars, expansions and colonization case to be a factor in international affairs, resulting in a far more globalized and cooperative world. The last time major power clashed openly was in 1945, and since then violence has seen an unprecedented decline. Due to continuing industrialization and expanding trade, many significant changes of the century were, directly or indirectly, economic and technological in nature. Inventions such as the light bulb, an automobile, and the telephone in the 19th century, followed by supertanker airlines, motorways, radio, television, antibiotics, nuclear power, frozen food, computer and microcomputers, the internet, the mobile telephone affected people's quality of life across the developed world. Scientific research, engineering professionalization, and technological development, much of it motivated by the Cold War arms race, drove changes in everyday life. 20th century saw a massive transformation of the world order. Global total fertility rate, sea level rise, and ecological collapses increase. The result, competition for land and dwindling resources accelerated. Deforestation, water depletion, and mass extinction of many of the world species and decline in the population of others. Consequences well are being dealt with. Man-made global warming resulted in more extreme weather conditions. The global temperature on Earth has increased by a little more than 1 Celsius. Television, antibiotics, nuclear power, frozen food, computer and microcomputers, the internet, the mobile telephone affected people's quality of life across the developed world. Scientific research, engineering professionalization, and technological development, much of it motivated by the Cold War arms race, drove changes in everyday life. 20th century saw a massive transformation of the world order. Global total fertility rate, sea level rise, and ecological collapses increase. The result, competition for land and dwindling resources accelerated. Deforestation, water depletion, and mass extinction of many of the world species and decline in the population of others. Consequences well are being dealt with. Man-made global warming resulted in more extreme weather conditions. The global temperature on Earth has increased by a little more than 1 Celsius or 2 Celsius Fahrenheit. Since 1880, two-thirds of the warming has occurred since 1975 at the rate of roughly 0.15 or 0.20 Celsius per decade. It took over 200,000 years of modern human history and 6 million years of human evolution up to 1804 for the world's population to reach 1 billion. World population reached as estimated 2 billion in 1927. By late 1999, the global population reached 6 billion, with over half being concentrated in East, South, and Southeast Asia. Global literacy with World Health Organization global campaign for eradication of smallpox and other diseases responsible for more human deaths than all the wars and natural disasters combined yielded unprecedented result. Smallpox now only existed in labs. The definition of control is power to direct or an accepted comparison model in an experiment or on device used for regulation. According to George R. Terry, controlling is determining what is being accomplished, that is evaluating the performance and, if necessary, applying corrected measure so that the performance take place according to plans. If the plans are not progressing at the proper pace, the necessary measures are taken to set the things right. Controlling is a channel through which the plans may be properly implemented. The modern concept of control envisages a system that not only provides a historical record what has happened to the business as a whole, but pinpoint the reason why it has happened and provide data that enables the chief executive or the departmental head to take corrective steps, and he finds he is on the wrong track. Daly has enlarged the scope of control by saying that is help in finding out the reason for low performance and then suggesting the way of improving it. It also gives information to the top executives to assess their performance and then take corrective measures if necessary. Control is forward-looking, past is already gone, thus cannot be controlled. Measure can be Control is forward-looking. Control is forward-looking, past is already gone, thus cannot be controlled. Measures can be devised to control future activities only. Past provides a base for determining controls for future. The manager will study the past performance in order to find out the reason for low result. A corrective action will be taken to ensure that work in future is not adversely affected. To take, for example, production for a particular month is lower than standard. Manager will able to do anything about the past performance. However, he may study the reasons for low production. He should take appropriate steps so that the same mistakes are not repeated and production will not suffer in future. That's all, and thank you for watching and listening. Toodles!